Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest Cryptids and Monsters video. Alright, let's go ahead and let's continue with your new suggestions here. This one having to do with a creature that is actually linked to Bigfoot. It may not be a direct link, but it's not too far off either. In fact, its most distinctive trait or mark seems to be its vocalizations. It absolutely uses these items to be able to do various things. More on that here in a minute, but it definitely makes its biggest contribution when it comes to the way that it vocalizes itself. In fact, you're looking at a representation of it here. It has a very unique name too, once again tied to the way that it vocalizes things. It's known as the Woodland Crooners. So let's go ahead and let's talk about the information associated with this cryptid, and then I'll give my own thoughts and opinions on it too. So here's essentially what the Woodland Crooner is. Well, it's a creature that's apparently found in West Virginia. I had to look at several items to see its exact location, and several of those seem to point to that specific state. So those of you that are there in West Virginia, if you have more information on a local level with regards to this creature, let me know. But yes, the reason why it's called the Woodland Crooner first is this. I mentioned earlier that there's almost like a link associated with Bigfoot. Imagine something like that. It's a Bigfoot-like creature, but more smaller size, not too small. In fact, it would range probably around 6 feet. So in other words, the height of a human. And it definitely has the weight of a human too. In fact, it seems to be about 150 to 200 pounds. And then like most other Bigfoot, it has the usual telltale signs with regards to shaggy hair. In this case, having along the lines of a darker grayish hue, especially when it comes to some stripes that apparently go across its fur. And then it has also these green or blue eyes. And then the faces themselves have a very pronounced brow, long nostrils, and then it's also known to have an underbite too. But yes, otherwise, if you were to take a Bigfoot and then shrink it just a tiny bit and then add those other physical characteristics, that's essentially what you have here when it comes to this Woodland Crooner. Now, where there's a big difference though between it and the common Bigfoot is this. It has to do with those vocalizations I was mentioning earlier. Apparently, much of the ambiance that is around there in its forest can be tied to this creature. You can hear it, in other words, first before you actually see it. And this is a creature that uses its high-pitched screeching sounds to be able to both talk to one another and then also use it for other items too. For example, there's this. These Woodland Crooners are known to be very social creatures, at least with regards to its own other type of crooners. So in other words, those that are within its community, if you could even call it that. There's apparently nightly calls that are done to one another. These calls can range from stuff involving territory. So in other words, one Woodland Crooner telling to another one that, hey, you're encroaching on my spot here, get away. But most predominantly, it seems to be more along the lines of mating calls. And these are calls that are done from one to another, a male to a female, to try to use this to attract the other mate and then try to have some kind of interactions afterward. And in fact, it turns out that these calls are done throughout multiple times of the night. It can be ranged from jarring, piercing noises, or even sweet melodies, almost like a sing-song type melody, and in other cases, almost bird calls as well. It made me wonder too, you hear those videos on YouTube where people have captured what sounds like something in the far distance, and people say that it's immediately a Bigfoot. It could be, but it also could be this. It could be a Woodland Crooner that is actually utilizing once again its voice to be able to reach one other from its community as well. Both males and females utilize these vocalizations too. And then once again, there's a great way to be able to pick out who's in the vicinity. All you have to do is just listen with your ear, and then there's a good chance that you'll hear, especially in West Virginia, this woodland crooner. Now, where it takes another level is this. It also utilizes its voice when it comes to hunting. It is an animal. It is something that more along the lines of a carnivore as well. It not only hunts anything there in the forest, but apparently also people. This may be also a distinction when it comes to other Bigfoots that are out there, because it doesn't seem like the other Bigfoots tend to hunt people per se, but here in this case, this woodland crooner does, and it uses its voice in an almost expert level for this. For example, here's essentially what it does. It uses its voice to get people to follow it. So in other words, people may be interested in what's causing this noise, this woodland crooner. In fact, it almost does it along the lines of a tactic to confuse the prey. So it sounds like something else. It can almost mimic almost like a baby or something along those lines. Something that I was reading about it being able to do it along the lines of an offspring. And when that happens, it causes people to come check out what's happening. And then too little too late, they realize that it's not a baby, but instead it's the woodland crooner. And then on top of that too, it also uses its own high-pitched voice to mimic the voice of a woman as well. And when that happens, it could cause some people there, some travelers within the forest, to try to rescue this woman. And then, of course, they run into the woodland crooner. It also does this too. It's an expert hunter when it comes to subterfuge. So the way it does it is this: if it's being hunted per se, let's say by people that are out there, and then they spot this creature and they think they're going to grab it, it actually leads the prey from one point to another, but it also has another one of its kin right there as well. This one is much bigger, much stronger, and when it appears, all of a sudden it catches those hunters by big surprise. And when that happens, that brief pause is enough for these creatures to then take down its prey. So you can see that it uses multiple tactics when it comes to being able to have humans confused, or in other cases lead them onto some other area and then lead them to a trap, and then that's when that occurs. In fact, this trap is another nice avenue too, because apparently these creatures love getting people hopelessly lost. They get people to a point where, using again its vocalizations, it causes the person to go to another direction. Maybe that person doesn't want to run into whatever is causing these noises, and then they keep using this tactic over and over until it confuses the person. They're hopelessly lost. They're deep within the woods. They're no longer within any kind of proximity that they were before, and then the rest is history. They cannot escape, and then that's when these woodland crooners essentially attack at that point. Plus, what's interesting is this as well. It also uses this same vocalization tactic between other woodland crooners when it comes to attacks. So apparently it uses the voice to mimic one of the children associated with one of the woodland crooners. So in other words, it mimics that soft cry of a baby from a woodland crooner, and then the woodland crooner thinks that it's from their own offspring, and then lo and behold, that's when the original woodland crooner is now on the attack. And then when that happens, it's over at that point. So multiple angles when it comes to this creature. Nothing unlike the Bigfoot or Big Feet that's tied to something using so many sounds, both on the attacks and then also on the hunt. So very, very interesting stuff. But that's pretty much it. That's all the information I could find associated with this Bigfoot-like creature. Once again, not quite a Bigfoot, but not exactly much different from it, at least on the physical characteristics. There you have, though, something else in terms of the vocalizations, just changing things completely to a whole different level. Oh yeah, let me add this as well too. Let's say you want to have a chance to run into this creature. Not necessarily, I don't have any idea why you would do so. I don't think it's necessarily out of a good choice. But if you go into that West Virginia area, there's apparently a lot of abandoned mines, caves, underground dwellings and so on. This woodland crooners, or set of them, have used these now as hibernation. So in other words, whenever it's winter and they want to get away from all that snow, it's time to hibernate like many of the other animals that are out there. That's where it goes, and then it places itself, and then it basically sleeps during those winter months. Again, big caution on that part. You don't want to have anything like that, and finding like something like that within one of those abandoned caves. It's almost like straight out of a horror movie whenever you see something like this coming out, because otherwise this creature is essentially there, and then it's going to attack, and then that's going to be a bad thing. But again, if you want to run into something along those lines, even then, if you try to attack it, it uses apparently its expert climbing skills. It can jump straight from the ground up to one of the top of the trees with one single leap, and then use its massive hands to be able to grip any of those branches and then escape. You're not going to have much chance when it comes to that. But anyways, just wanted to add that there. All right, everybody, let me know what you guys think. Take care, everyone.